Turning to Ukraine, most of the country there is still without power after the latest wave of Russian airstrikes. But in his nightly address, President Volodymyr Zelensky said the Ukrainian military had repelled dozens of missiles. Zelensky said without the country's air defense, the situation would have been much worse. 3 people were killed and 6 wounded in Thursday's attacks, which damaged residential buildings and critical infrastructure across the country.
Trails of smoke streak across the skies of Ukraine as dozens of Russian missiles yet again batter the country. Kyiv residents sheltered below the streets in the city's metro, in scenes reminiscent of the early days of Russia's invasion. Kyiv's Mayor Vitaliy Klitschko remains defiant, saying people of Ukraine will never give up.
The Russians want to bring depression, especially right now, Christmas time, New Year. The Russians want to bring us to black time, to without lighting, without heating. They have to bring the depression mood to everyone. Instead, them Ukrainian people very angry, and they told, better we stay without electricity and without heating, but we never give up.
Deutsche Welle's Emmanuel Schaz visited one neighborhood in southern Kyiv, where a missile caused extensive damage.
And you can see just here the debris of that missile that just fell earlier this morning. So the road here is completely littered. This is a neighbor completely desolated, and it's not just houses that have been shattered. It's also entire lives.
Locals here sifted through what little remained of their homes.
I was in the supermarket when my granddaughter called crying and said that our windows were broken and someone's house was on fire. We dropped everything and came running and saw everything that these animals had done. They're fascists.
Ukrainian military officials say dozens of missiles were fired at key infrastructure targets, but most were intercepted by Ukrainian air defense systems. Belarus has summoned the Ukrainian ambassador after it claimed a Ukrainian missile entered its territory. Almost a year into this war, people across Ukraine are now seeing out 2022 in the same ruinous way that it began.
Let's bring in Frank Ledwidge here. He's a military analyst at the University of Portsmouth in the UK. Good to see you, Frank. Now, Ukrainian air defenses are intercepting many of the missiles and drones that Russia keeps firing at Ukraine, but some do still get through with devastating cumulative effect. Frank, if Russia continues this aerial bombardment, what will that mean for Ukraine?
Well, one commentator, Terry, put it like this, that when was it? Yesterday, Putin spent something in the region of $200 or $300 million to knock out electricity in Kiev for 8 hours. The Ukrainians have shown themselves to be extremely resilient. They will continue to do so. Their system is deep. It's not a modern electrical system or indeed a critical infrastructure system, which paradoxically makes it far easier to repair and far more resilient. So to answer your question, they will keep on throwing their rather expensive missiles at the Ukrainians. There will be some effect, but it will have no decisive impact on the outcome of the war.
Well, talking about the outcome of the war, a lot of people are wondering what sort of end game is shaping up. What are your expectations for this war in the coming year, Frank?
Great question, Terry. So this, as with any of these questions, is contingent. If the West keeps drip-feeding weaponry to the Ukrainians, as they are now, to fill gaps and bolster completely perhaps outdated capabilities such as their air defences, then it is likely we will maintain the war into 2024. If the West, however, decides, particularly here I'm thinking the United States, decides and makes the critical decision, the strategic decision for Ukraine to win this war, by transferring the tanks they have, the infantry fighting vehicles they have, the aircraft and the long-range weapons, then Ukraine can win this war this year. So we're either looking at a continuing fight, which Ukraine will prevail in the end, I don't see it failing, or a war ending this year, the latter depending on US decisions made in Washington for a step up of weapons supplies.
Frank, thank you very much. Military analyst Frank Ledwidge there.